There is a spot in Pennsylvania where someone cut straight through a solid rock hill, 80 feet deep, a quarter mile long. No river did that, no earthquake. A machine did it. And it did not take long. Now multiply that by thousands, because that is what happened all across America, from one coast to the other, through mountains, swamps, deserts, and frozen ground. The people who built the Interstate Highway System moved more dirt than any other project in the history of the world. Today, we are going to talk about how they did it, and more importantly, the machines that made it all possible. Let's start with the problem. It is 1956. America just won World War II. The economy is booming. Cars are everywhere. But the roads are a mess. Most highways outside of big cities are just two narrow lanes. No dividers, no on-ramps, no way around the town. You had to drive straight through the middle of it. A trip that takes 4 hours today might have taken 2 days back then. And there was a bigger worry. The country was in the middle of the Cold War with the Soviet Union. Leaders in Washington were asking a serious question. If a nuclear bomb hit a major American city tomorrow, how would people get out? The honest answer was, they couldn't. The roads could not handle it. One man felt this problem in his bones more than most. His name was Dwight Eisenhower. Back in 1919, Eisenhower was a 28-year-old lieutenant colonel in the army. He joined a military convoy that was trying to drive from Washington, D.C. all the way to San Francisco. It sounds simple. It was not. The trip took 62 days. Roads turned to mud. Bridges broke under the weight of the trucks and had to be fixed on the spot. The convoy moved at an average of 6 miles per hour. 6 miles per hour. That is slower than a bicycle. Eisenhower never forgot that trip. Then, during World War II, he watched the German army move troops and equipment at high speed on their highway system, called the Autobahn. 4 wide lanes, smooth, straight, built to move things fast. He saw what a real road network could do. When Eisenhower became president, he made building American highways one of his top goals. On June 29, 1956, he signed the Federal Aid Highway Act. It called for 41,000 miles of new roads connecting every major city in the country. The federal government would pay 90 cents of every dollar it cost. It was the biggest construction project America had ever attempted. Now they had to actually build it. Think about what 41,000 miles really means. That is enough road to circle the entire earth 1.5 times. And it was not going to be built on flat, easy ground. Parts of it needed to go through the Rocky Mountains. Parts of it needed to cross swamps in Florida. Parts of it needed to cut through dense forests in the Pacific Northwest. Every mile was a challenge. Every mile needed machines. The first job was clearing the path. And for that, there was one machine everyone turned to: the Caterpillar D9 Bulldozer. The D9 weighed close to 50 tons. Its engine put out 286 horsepower in its original form. Its blade was wide enough to push over a large tree without slowing down. If there was a hill in the way, the D9 pushed it flat. If there was a forest in the way, the D9 knocked it down. If there was a rock face that needed to be cut back, the D9 went to work after the blasting crews finished. Caterpillar built thousands of these machines during the highway years. Many of them ran every single daylight hour for years without stopping. They were serviced at night and back in the dirt at sunrise. But clearing the ground was only the first step. Once the trees and rock were gone, someone had to move all that material somewhere else. You cannot just leave a mountain of dirt sitting in the middle of a highway project. That is where the dump trucks came in. Companies like Euclid built massive off-road haulers just for jobs like this. These were not the dump trucks you see on city streets. These were purpose-built machines with huge beds, thick frames, and big diesel engines designed to carry 20 tons or more of material at a time and do it over and over all day long. On a big job site in the late 1950s, you might have 50 of these trucks running at once. Drivers worked 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week. The cabs had no air conditioning. The ride was rough. The noise was constant. But the pay was good, very good. And those drivers earned every dollar. For moving large amounts of material across long stretches of a job site, there was an even better option: a machine called a scraper. And the man behind the best scrapers in the world was R.G. LeTourneau. LeTourneau left school at age 14. He taught himself mechanics, welding, and engineering through hands-on work and night classes. By the time the interstate was being built, he had earned 299 patents for earth-moving equipment, more than any other engineer in American history. The man was a genius with steel and engines. His scrapers were unlike anything else on a job site. Most machines do one job. A LeTourneau scraper could do 4 things in one pass. It would lower its blade to cut into the ground. It would load that material into its own bowl. It would carry that load across the job site. Then it would dump and spread the material exactly where it was needed. No stopping, no separate loader, no wasted time. One machine, one operator, moving enormous amounts of earth in a continuous loop. LeTourneau had sold his earth-moving company in 1953, but his machines, still built from his designs, kept running through the entire highway era. His factory in Longview, Texas ran day and night to keep up with orders. The workers there did not just build the machines, they used them. A section of Interstate 20 runs just south of that Longview plant, and LeTourneau employees helped build it with the same machines coming off their own assembly line. By the early 1960s, over 200,000 workers were active on highway projects across the country at the same time, coast to coast, desert, mountains, plains, swamps, all moving in one coordinated push to connect America. But moving and shaping the dirt was not the end of the job. After the ground was properly graded and compacted, someone had to lay the actual road. That job belonged to the asphalt paver. The most important version of this machine during the interstate era was made by a company called Baba Green, based in Aurora, Illinois. They had been making paving equipment since the 1930s, but the Interstate Highway project pushed them to build something better than they had ever made before. Their paver moved slowly down the road, laying a wide, smooth ribbon of hot asphalt as it went. The key part was a steel plate at the back of the machine called the screed. It was heated, and as it dragged across the fresh asphalt, it smoothed and lightly compacted the surface at the same time. The result was a road surface that was flat, consistent, and strong enough to carry millions of vehicles for decades without cracking apart. Every interstate you have ever driven on in your life was paved by a machine that worked exactly like that one. The total numbers from this project are almost hard to believe. The amount of earth moved during interstate construction could have filled the Panama Canal 3 times over. The concrete used could have built 80 Hoover dams. The project took 35 years, employed hundreds of thousands of workers, and cost the equivalent of $400 billion in today's money. This was not just a construction project. It was one of the largest things human beings have ever done on purpose. It was officially declared complete in 1992, and what it did to America is just as big as what it cost. Before the interstate, most Americans lived close to where they worked because driving far was slow and exhausting. After the interstate, you could live 30 miles from your job and be there in 40 minutes. Whole suburbs grew up around that idea. Families moved out of crowded cities into new neighborhoods that only existed because the road made them possible. Businesses followed, factories moved, distribution centers were built near highway interchanges. Truck freight became the backbone of the American economy because you could now move a load from Chicago to Atlanta in a day and a half instead of a week. The motel industry was built around interstate exits. The fast food industry was built around drivers who did not want to stop for long. The trucking industry as we know it today simply could not exist without these roads. Towns that the interstate ran through often became prosperous. Towns that it bypassed often faded. The road did not just move people, it decided which places would grow and which ones would be left behind. As for the machines themselves, most of them are gone. When a machine wore out, it was scrapped for steel. There was no museum fund, no preservation effort. Construction equipment is a tool, and when a tool is done, it goes. That is the nature of the business. A few survived. A Caterpillar D9 from the construction era is preserved in Peoria, Illinois, the same city where Caterpillar has built machines since 1910. LeTourneau University in Longview, Texas keeps several original LeTourneau machines on its campus, including some of the scrapers that worked the interstate years. You can go see them. But for the most part, the machines that built this country left nothing behind except the roads themselves. Next time you get on an interstate, take one good look before the traffic pulls your attention away. Look at the cuts through the hill on either side of you. Look at how perfectly level the road is. Look at how that curve ahead is banked just right so you do not have to slow down. Someone planned all of that. Someone blasted that rock. Someone moved that dirt. Someone paved that surface. And a machine made every single bit of it possible. That road did not appear. It was built by hand, by machine, by people who worked in the heat and the cold cold and the rain and the dark to connect this country mile by mile. If you want more stories like this one, the machines, the men, and the eras that built the world, subscribe. We are just getting started.